Well, hello everybody, Jeff here from the Learn Portrait Drawing channel, and this is going to be part 2 of a 2-part video series drawing this portrait. Now, if you haven't seen part 1 yet, I really recommend it. I'll put a link to it somewhere up in the top of the screen. I'll also link it down in the description below. In part 1, we started with a blank piece of paper and we got to a basic layout of this girl right here. But in this video, we're going to take that basic layout where we left off and we're going to finish it and end up with this. A lot of people write to me and say, hey Jeff, I know how to draw pretty good, but I don't know how to do blending. I don't know how to really push my portrait to the next level. So hopefully this video will help you with that, because we're going to start out with it really rough and we're going to finish with it nice and smooth like this. So, with that being said, before we get on to the video, I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for writing and leaving me comments, hitting that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me, lets me know that you like these videos, and makes me want to keep doing more of them. So, enough talking. Let's get on to finish drawing this portrait right here. Okay, so here we go, picking up exactly where we left off before. Now, I noticed when we left off that I needed to adjust the right-hand side of her face, and we needed to raise her forehead up higher. You know, it almost looks fine looking at it now, but watch as I raise this up, how much better it looks. And that just goes to show that sometimes our eyes don't see everything, or what we think we see or what we think is correct may not actually be correct. So here I am, just slowly bringing in this side of the face, and again I'm looking at this little area of skin between the mouth and the cheek right here. That's how I determine how far out the side of the face goes. And again, I mentioned in my last video, part 1 of this, that it's easier to raise the forehead up than to move everything else down. So what you could see here, I'm taking a measurement of the chin to the nose. That line, the chin to the nose, is about the same distance as the eyebrow to the top of the hairline. So that's what I was doing, is just using an already existing part of the picture as a measurement and basing the other structures off of that. So here I am raising the forehead up a little bit. Well, actually it's a lot. If you look where I erased and look how far up I brought it, it's probably almost a ½ inch higher than where I had it. And of course we're just raising the hair up a little bit because everything else raised up. And even though it's not blended in yet, you could see it looks better. Just raising that forehead ever so slightly. And so what I'm going to be doing here is I'm starting to notice little things that need changing. You know, I wasn't too happy with the nose and this nostril, so I'm kind of erasing this tip of the nose and the side of the nose so I can reestablish the shape a little bit. If you look closely, you could see that the nostril is a little further back than the tip of the nose, so I'm just trying to get that here. And I think I have it. So we're just blending back some of the eraser marks. And you can already see that's changed the shape of her nose. It brought the nose forward a little bit, because the ball of the nose now looks like it's in front of that nostril. So again, because we aren't really locked into anything, it's okay to erase like we're doing here. I need to bring this eye in just a little bit. I noticed that it was a little too far out towards the side of the face. So with just a little erasing, you could see we've changed the shape, we've blended it back together, and now we're just locking in this edge of the eye. And see, that's one thing that you'll learn as a beginner, that it's okay to make changes. You're never locked into a drawing when you think you are. When you think it can't be corrected, just realize you can fix mistakes. Like here I am just refining this eye a little bit. I noticed that the iris and the pupil were too big, so we're just slowly erasing, slowly reshaping. That's one thing that a lot of times as a beginner we forget these things. We think I can't do any better, and so we put out artwork that we're not happy with. I'm guilty of it. A lot of people are guilty of it. We're our own worst critics, and a lot of times we just aren't that happy. So what I've been learning, a lesson for myself that I've been learning is, if I'm not happy with something, ask myself, what aren't you happy with? What needs to change, and why can't you change it? And so here, if I'm not happy with something, I'll erase it. I'll isolate what's wrong, and then I will change it. I'm trying not to settle for excuses of why I don't like something. If I don't like something, why don't I like it, and see if I can fix it. So that's what we're doing at this stage right here. Stepping through with the eraser. We're lightening up certain areas of the face that were dark. Right here, I'm kind of creating there's a little reflective light on this side of the face. So that's why I made that line right there. And you're going to see, I'm just going to step through and start making these areas of light. Now, this isn't going to stay this light. You're going to see, I erase it and then I blend it. So I'll erase something to bring it forward. And then we'll blend it if we want to knock it back down a little bit. So right now, like if you look at the lips where I erased, it's very, very bright. We don't want it that bright. It almost looks like she has a white mustache. Well, we don't want that. So we're just going to slowly start making our adjustments as we go along. So here I am erasing underneath the eye. And I believe I mentioned in the last video that it's easier to erase big sections and then use your pencil and your blenders to shrink that down. So for example, right here, I just erased a big part of the eye, but now I'm going to use my blending stump to kind of blend that white area smaller and smaller. It's much easier to make a big eraser mark and then to blend it back to a really small one. And that's what we're doing here. We're just trying to work on that shape underneath the eye that's sort of a white shape. So using our kneaded eraser, working on the eye. And this is my Mono Zero eraser. It's like a pencil eraser. It's very, very helpful for getting these little tiny areas. For like right here underneath the eye. And then I'll just use my pencil to reshape it. Make it a little bit more circular. But see what I'm doing? I'm leaving this white space underneath the eye, which is going to be like the lower eyelid. And now back to the other eye over here. It's always important to make sure the eyes are matching. Alright, so this eye is just about done. It's very dark. You can see even in the reference picture, it's very dark. There's not a lot of detail inside of the eye. So there's no need to put detail in. So I'm looking at the shadows here. Trying to maintain, when you squint your eyes, you're trying to look at light shapes and dark shapes. If you squint your eyes right now and kind of look at the reference picture, there's a shadow on this side of the face. And then on the cheekbone, it's much lighter. So you can see I'm trying to do that here. And here I am blending back down that white mustache area. Well, the area that I said could be a white mustache. Obviously, she doesn't have a white mustache. And this is kind of what I do at this stage. The picture is already laid in. The features are already pretty much where we want them to be. So a lot of this is adding shadow, erasing, and blending. And whenever I'm doing this, I'm looking at other features. So I'm seeing The nose has a little tone to it, but it's not as dark as, say, the eyebrow, or it's not as dark as underneath the neck. So we want to keep that in mind at this stage when you're doing shading. Look at what you're shading or look at what you're erasing and compare that to something else on the picture, something else you're already sure about, and ask yourself, is this lighter or darker than that other area? And so there's a lot of just asking yourself questions. This is all going on in my head, of course. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, is this too light? Is this lighter than the bridge of the nose? If it's not, then I need to use my blender to blend it back down. This shadow right here, how dark is it? Is it darker than the pupil of the eye? No, it's not. Okay, so let me make sure I don't go too dark here. Just like over here, this is all in shadow here. Now, is this shadow lighter or darker than the shadow under the nose? Well, I would say it's not as dark as the shadow under the nose, so I'm going to have to lighten this. This is all my internal dialogue that's going on in my head when I'm drawing this. So we're going to blend this back down, blend it into the background. See, this side's all in shadow, so that's why I'm fairly confident darkening that right-hand side of the picture. Right up in here, I want to make sure that this shadow looks not too big. I kind of had it a little too big. But I'm noticing how it connects up to the eyebrow. And so I'm just looking at that shape and trying to maintain that. Now I got to be careful. I don't want her nose to look too crooked. So we got to make sure that bridge of the nose is straight. Just like this. And just shaping with the eraser, knocking back down the shadows that are too dark, blending back where we erase. And this is a really fun stage to do. It may not be the funnest to watch, but it's really fun during this stage of the drawing because you get to jump all over the place. You get to slowly bring the picture to life. And as you can see, I am really jumping a lot. You know, I'm going from the nose to the forehead to the eyes. It just kind of depends on what you see and what's jumping out at you. And then going with that, making the changes that you're seeing. Don't get too locked into one certain thing. Like right here, we're working on this shadow that comes down the cheek. This is the shadow that her hair's making on her face. Now right now, that shadow's about the same value as the hair. But we're going to darken the hair coming up here, and so then that shadow will look lighter. So I'm right here, I'm noticing, I just want to make sure that I'm locking in this shape of the forehead. It makes this little triangle, this white triangle. And I want the hair and the skin to be seen behind it. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm trying to use my eraser here and letting the viewer know that this is skin underneath here. So I got to make it a little bit lighter. That way it doesn't look like it's hair. It has to stand out. If you haven't seen the first part of this video, I will have a link to that in the description below. The first part of this video took us from a blank piece of paper to almost what you see here. And that's a really good video, which you should obviously watch if you haven't seen it. If you like this format of me breaking these portraits into multiple videos, please let me know. I think I might do this for the next portrait. We'll see. We'll see what the general reaction is. but I like being able to give you more videos each week and not have them so long, so you're not overwhelmed by watching them. So here we are again, just kind of slowly locking in the face. You know, the face is pretty much there, aside from it being not really smooth or blended in correctly. I'm okay leaving it right here, because now I'm working on the hair. Now I want to like really put in the time to get the hair as accurate as possible. A lot of the likeness that you're going to find when you're drawing is in these little details like the hair. You know, a lot of times we don't think about hair, we just scribble in some hair and call it a day, and then we wonder, well, why doesn't my picture look that good? So it's important to just, as you can see, I've outlined sort of this area around the hair right here, and I'm just isolating these shapes. I'm looking at the hair and I see, like right here, there's a shape that goes out to the left, and there's this little dark square right in this area. So just like we looked at shapes in the first part of this video, or the part 1 of this portrait, we use shapes to sort of get our layout down. We're doing the same exact thing. What shapes do we see in the hair? And so you could see, like right up in here, there's this dark shape that I'm shading. So I'm putting that in there. Doesn't have to be exact, but you just want to try and get as many details as you can. So I'm using my pencil to kind of shade in the direction of the hair. Right here it's dark. And then this is my compressed charcoal. I'm just kind of, look how dark that makes it. Just putting in some dark values and using my finger to blend it all in. And what it does is it's making this whole area one dark sort of tone value. And then over here again, I'm looking at where is the dark areas. So right here there's this shape that's dark. And then over here it's dark. So notice I'm just trying to keep in the dark areas. And then I'll use my finger to smudge it in. And see, it's already making the hair look a little bit layered. You're already getting that feeling of the hair being messed up. So we're just trying to be accurate to the picture. She's got sort of rosy cheeks, and so I've just blended in some tone for the cheeks. And then I'm noticing any part of the drawing that looks like it has something that stands out. I'll just blend it in with my blending stump. It looks like we got the eyebrows pretty good. They don't need to be thicker, so I'm pretty happy with that. But I am trying to make sure we see the skin through the hair, so that's why I'm kind of erasing and blending. Of course, if anybody has any questions or anything, please feel free to leave me a comment. Even if you don't have a question, I do read all my comments and I do respond to them all, so I really appreciate you sitting and watching these drawings. They are fascinating. Even me looking back and doing these commentaries, I find them helpful, and I'm the one who drew the picture. You can always find value in things like this, when you can sit down with an artist and hear his thoughts, and watch how something's created. It does something for you. It gets the creative juices flowing. So a lot of you who might be watching this right now, you might be feeling the urge to draw, because that's what these videos do. They help stir up that creativity inside of you. And so if these help you out, I'd really appreciate you letting me know. So again, we're working on the eye a little bit. I don't want that dark area under the eye to be too dark, but it is dark in the reference picture, so I'm trying to stay true to that. But we always got to ask ourselves, are we making it too dark? So compare that to another value on the picture. You know, you again ask yourself, is the shadow underneath her eye darker than the eyebrow? And if it looks darker than the eyebrow, we need to lighten it. So we're always comparing values to something else. And here we are just blending in, slowly blending in, trying to smooth out the forehead as best as we can. I should mention that this isn't high quality drawing paper. So I probably can't get this as smooth as I would like, because this is a sketch pad I'm drawing on. But I do like the sketch pad because it's really affordable. I can get this sketch pad, it's a Strathmore sketch pad, 11 by 14 inches, and you get 100 sheets. So that's a lot of paper. That's a lot of drawing, and I find it to be really good for beginners because you get a lot of paper. So moving slowly down here to the clothing. I'm not going to do the clothing just yet, but we are getting ready to do it. But we want to at least try and get these shadow shapes under the neck. So if we look under the neck, we could see there's like this line that comes down here. And right about the center of the chin, it comes down and out. It kind of makes this shape like that. I don't know what kind of shape you'd call that. But see, I'm just slowly outlining these shadow shapes. And if you look at the reference picture, you could see what they look like. And right here, the clavicle kind of comes down and across right here. And then this is just the edge of her shirt. So I usually make those lines just a little bit darker. So let's start shading in these shadow shapes here. Again, look at the picture and then look what I'm shading, and you could see that it's about the same kind of shape. And then right here is a little bit darker. So within this shadow shape is a darker shadow shape. Do you see that? How we have a larger shadow shape, and within that shadow is a darker shadow. That's one thing you really want to get in the habit of doing, is looking for, first look at the overall shape of something and then work on the details within it. And so that's kind of what we did here. There was an overall shadow, and then inside that shadow was a darker shadow. And see, now we're just blending it all together. And this is I'm just using a little blending stump, kind of using the side of it to draw, and then the side of it here to kind of blend. It just kind of smooths everything out. Now, even in the picture, it almost looks like this area of her neck is not that smooth, right? Like it looks like there's sort of a blotchiness to it in the shadows. So I kind of I'm leaving that there in my drawing. I'm not smoothing out the neck so much. And here's where lightening up this side of the nose. I had the shadow a little too dark, so we're just using our blended eraser or our kneaded eraser to slowly lighten it, and then we're blending it back together. And I'm always asking myself, did I make it too light? Do I need to make it darker? Always asking myself that during this stage. Right here, I probably need to bring this shadow out a little bit further, so just slowly bringing the shadow out, and then blend it back down. And then I need to make this shape, this shadow shape needs to be a little more squared off. And then, see, we're just shaping it so it looks like a nice cast shadow of the nose. And then I want to soften the edges. I think we did pretty good here with the mouth. Not too many corrections that we have to do. It actually turned out pretty good, in my opinion. So just going to put in some of these lighter shapes now down on the chest and blend it back. See, a little eraser and then blending it. You still get that, you can still see where we erased, but it doesn't stand out quite as prominent as when you just erase. So it's a good technique to do. Use your eraser and then blend it back into the drawing. A lot of people ask me, well, how do I blend? You know, how do I make my drawings look smoother? Or how do I, you know, basically how to blend? And that's it. That's basically all I do. I'll use my eraser to slowly erase, and then I will use a blending stump to kind of cover it back over again. And you just creates these nice little skin tones and these layers that look very nice. So working on that side of the nose, again, that makes the nose look really three-dimensional, the shadow. It's one of my favorite things to draw, is noses, because they come off the face, so you can make them really stand out. So here again, using my finger, kind of just rubbing in the charcoal that we're putting down in the hair. So you'll see me, I'll put some charcoal down, rub it in. Put some charcoal, rub it in. And what I'm trying to do is, I want to draw this shape here, this like, what is that, like a bow or something on the head? I'm not sure what that is. But we're going to want to draw this shape because that's going to be one of the darkest spots of the drawing. You know, it's going to be, it's going to help frame her face in. Am I talking too much? If I'm talking too much, let me know. It's kind of hard not to, though. You're sitting down watching and you got all these thoughts in your head. I'm trying to remember what I was thinking, what choices I was making. I remember thinking right here, I need to make this part of the forehead a little darker. You know, if you look at the picture, there's a very slight shadow right up here. And so I was trying to just use my blending tool to add some shadow right there. I think we did a pretty good job at getting her eyes down. You know, it does look like she's looking right back at us. And I like how that turned out. So I'm trying to, the eye was just not looking exactly right to me, so I wanted to make sure that I just do some final touches on the eyes. I'm trying to think to myself, what are the darkest areas of this picture? And I'm using my charcoal here to put in the really dark areas. This is the really dark area. This is a dark area here. I'm just sort of reinforcing these dark areas. Sometimes on a lot of drawings when you're a beginner, you don't go dark enough. I still make the mistake sometimes too. In fact, one of my last drawings, I probably could have gone darker. And I didn't. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. So here we are, we're going to pull the camera back so we can draw this top part of her hair. Whatever this thing is on top of her head. And I didn't want to draw the whole thing, but I wanted to get something in here. So I noticed the line goes up like this, and then it kind of goes across. And I'm looking how far out does it go, comparing it to say where the part is in the hair, comparing it to where it is on the face. You know, I'm noticing this comes up like this. Now this side looks like it starts about right here. And I'm just looking back and forth at the picture. Sort of like we did in part 1 of this video when we did the initial layout of this drawing. Just using our intuition, our best feeling, what something feels like. And you just ask yourself, does this feel like this is in the right spot? And looking at the picture and looking at the drawing, I'd say yes, this feels right. So we're going to put in this overall dark tone all over this shape. This is all dark. So this is compressed charcoal I'm using. So we'll lay down this compressed charcoal and then we'll just use our finger and we're going to blend it into the paper. So see, just use my first finger and it flattens it out and makes it a nice dark tone. Look at that. Beautiful. And I'm just putting in some more dark tones on this side of the hair. Notice this side of the hair, this left side of the picture, is darker. It's more red. So it's just got darker values. And notice now, because we've darkened the hair, look at the shadow on the side of the face. Remember the hair in this shadow right here were the same value? Now look, because I made the hair darker, that shadow on the face, even though I didn't touch it, look how lighter it looks now. It looks like we lightened the shadow. We didn't do anything to the shadow. All we did is darken the hair. And because we added that darker hair value, it made the shadow on the face look lighter, and now it's reading like a shadow. That's what's great about drawing and using tones and dark tones and light tones, is you can really give these cool illusions like that. So back to this part of the hair, I'm just kind of creating this grid work of pattern, this sort of checkerboard pattern on the sort of like a netting or a lace pattern. And over here there's going to be a little lace pattern that I'm going to put in. Yeah, right in here. Just see, I'm just doing little hatch work, and that's it. It almost looks like a little spider web. And then there's these little feathery things coming out the top. So I'm just flicking my pencil around so it looks like it actually has some sort of fabric on there. And that's it. That's all we really have to do with that headpiece. I'm not going to draw on all the feathers and stuff. We'll just leave it like that. And so, if you haven't been able to tell, I mean, aside from the clothing, we are pretty much getting almost done. You know, I'm not working so much on the face anymore. I'm really trying to lock in the hair a little bit. Trying to stay true, you know, this part right here, this hair that comes down. And it creates this little shape right here. So I'm keeping that shape on the face. So we just blending a little bit here and there. See this spot right here, it kind of looks like the forehead behind the hair. So I wanted to keep that in there like this. But that's one thing I'm also learning. There's no detail too small. You know, you could choose to overlook something. I mean, it all depends what your style is, but you know, I'm really trying to look more into not ignoring the hair and things of that nature. Right here what I'm doing is using my eraser to bring back all this shading I had. If you look on the drawing, this part is all lighter. So I'm erasing this to make the hair stand out even more. If you look at the reference picture, look at the right side, you'll see there's a shadow on the right side in the background, so that's going to be a darker background. But this left side where I was erasing, it's lighter there. And so I want to make sure that I erase all this area here, and so that makes the hair stand out even more. So right in here, just erase as much as I can. So you notice we haven't really drawn hair. We've just kind of put in different values, different darks, and then used our finger to blend it in. And just doing that here and there and using our eraser, we kind of give the illusion that we're drawing hair when we're really not. We're just trying to draw shapes, dark shapes and light shapes. So the face needs to be smoothed out a little, so I'm slowly smoothing out these areas, trying to blend it in to these other areas of the face. Right here on the side of the nose is a little bit darker, so I'm trying to just see if I can get this dark value in there. So let me use my eraser, kind of bring it out, and then we'll reshape it. I'm just shaving it in just a little bit. Ever so slightly. Sometimes it's hard to even see that I made a change. But it's amazing sometimes what a difference a real tiny change can make. You know, like in the first part of this video, or the first part, the part that I filmed a few days ago, we had to adjust the chin. And even though the chin wasn't that bad, it had to come up a little bit, and we made it smaller, and by doing that made all the difference. Or even like the forehead in the beginning of this video. When we raised the forehead up a little bit, look how much better that made this look. So just little tiny adjustments. Constantly ask yourself, am I happy with how it's looking? If yes, continue. If I'm not happy, what am I not happy about? Is it the nose? Well, what about the nose makes me unhappy? Isolate that. Isolate what you don't like about the drawing. Ask yourself why you don't like it, and then ask yourself, how can I make it better? How can I correct it? If I don't like the shape of, this shadow under the nose, why not? Is it too long? Okay, let me shorten it. This part of the eye, am I not happy with it? Why not? Does it need to be lighter? Does it need to be darker? Okay, make those changes. So it's almost like you're a surgeon doing surgery. You're constantly analyzing the drawing, asking yourself what needs to change, what are you not happy with, and then make the change. And believe that you can make the change. So here I am. I want to make this part of the forehead a little bit darker. So we're just using our blending stump, which has charcoal on it, and just blending this side of the forehead, just ever so slightly. Now we're using our eraser to kind of put these little highlights into the hair. They're very, very light, But if you look closely, you'll see these lines that it's starting to make. Right up in here, there's these little, see, look at, just makes these little highlights. It's just one extra dimension that it adds to the hair. And it's going to make the hair reflect light and give it more of a three-dimensionality to it. See, look how this is changing the hair. Now right here, I didn't really put in the part of the hair, so I need to work on that a little bit. Right here, I got to add it. So just use my eraser and kind of just add this white shape. And we'll blend it back down a little bit. We don't need it to stand out so brightly. And then up here is a little bit darker. So we'll use our pencil and kind of just darken it in. And look, just like that, we just made the part of her hair. So see, I'm just flicking my pencil and then using my finger to blend it in. I tend to use my finger a lot when blending hair or blending really, really dark areas like that headpiece. I don't use my finger a whole lot on like the face or anything like that. Now here I am using some soft charcoal, some vine charcoal to add a darker tone here. Remember, this is kind of like you could see her shadow against the background. So I want to just add this darker sort of shading here. Now I want to be careful. I don't want it to blend into the hair. So I'm using sort of my eraser to kind of make the hair still look like it's standing out. But I'm pretty happy with this so far. I'm happy with how the hair is looking. I think it looks better with that dark tone on the right-hand side of the picture in the background. So just kind of really darkening it up here. And now what we need to do, we need to work on the shirt. So I'm going to go even faster here because this part's really nothing of importance. I'm just looking at the picture and I'm just going to do my best to draw these stripes on the shirt. Doesn't have to be exact, but I am asking myself, I'm just making little observations. For example, it looks like the black stripes are thicker than the white stripes. So I'm trying to draw thick stripe, thin stripe, thick stripe, thin stripe. And again, it's not perfect, but that's okay. This isn't the main focus of the drawing. So I'm just going to use my pencil and kind of just roughly put in these dark values. Look at this, more like a scribble. It's nothing of great importance. And then we'll just have to blend it in. So I'm just going to use my blending stump, just blend. That way it doesn't look so scribbly and it looks more like a solid tone. That's all we need. So you can see it's really, really messy. Like I said, I sped this part up like 4 times the speed of my normal drawing because, quite frankly, it's kind of boring just to draw those stripes all over. So we're doing the same thing on this side. And we'll do our best to just draw these thick lines, thin lines, thick lines, thin lines. Now, depending on your style, you may choose to draw clothing, certain clothing. You may choose to leave that as an outline. It just depends on what your style is. I wanted to draw these stripes because I felt like they changed direction enough to where it'll give some form. You know, like you could tell by how the stripes are facing here on this side of the shirt that, you know, it looks like there's a change of direction. So I kind of like that. But, you know, some clothing can be really boring to draw, and depending on what you're going for, you might choose to just leave it out or change it altogether. So look, that's pretty much it for the clothing. This thing I'm using right there is like this little brush that I think you can use in arts and crafts. My daughter had it for something, and I thought, oh, let me see if it'll work as a sort of like a blending tool. But it was okay. I don't know if I'd use it again. So right here underneath the area of the neck, it's a little dark, so I'm just darkening this area here. Oh, you might be able to hear my dog in the background. Alright. Almost done. We are almost in the final stretch here. So I'm trying to add just little tiny strands of hair. That's something that is really important, and it adds a little more detail to the picture. Just these random flicks of the pencil to just add these strands of hair. And then here we are back to our eraser, adding little highlighting pieces of hair just right here. So see how we just flick the pencil, just kind of giving it a little bit of volume, a little bit of detail. Really helps out in the final picture. And so at this stage of the drawing, we're about wrapping it up here. This is all now about what needs to be smoothed out, maybe what values need to be adjusted a little bit. So right here the lip was a little too bright, so I'm just kind of slowly blending the lips a little bit so they're not quite as bright. This needs to come down a little bit. This is a little too dark, so I'm just erasing underneath the lip just a little bit. We want it to be a shadow there, but it doesn't have to be quite as dark. And so I erase and then kind of blend it back in. Just like this. And I'm fairly happy with how this turned out. You know, if you watch part 1 and you're watching this right here, you'll see we barely did any measuring on this. This was all completely done by feeling and by drawing shapes. And look, we got her likeness down. I think it looks like her. I think it turned into a very nice drawing. And that is really the goal of the portraits that I draw and what I'm trying to teach on this channel. Teach you how you can do something like this. You don't need grids, you don't need a trace. This drawing took about 3 hours in total to do, maybe a little less than 3 hours. So you can do a really nice drawing of someone you love, a stranger, a celebrity, draw a character from a movie. You can draw something like that in only a few hours using charcoal and these techniques, and you can be really proud of what you've done. And if I helped you to do that, I want you to leave me a comment and let me know, because that really is why I'm doing this. It really helps to know that I'm helping you out. So there's not a whole much more that we're going to do here. Again, this is final touches. Like here, we're bringing back out that eyelid. I notice that the eyelid needs to come out a little bit, so I'm using my eraser to just kind of look back and forth at the drawing and see what needs to stand out. You know, the bridge of the nose, I want to make sure we keep that with a little light on it. So we're just bringing that there. So let's see, it's just little light things like this, little touches here and there. And that's why I think I sped this up maybe a little bit faster than I normally do, just because there's not the drawing isn't going to change a whole lot at this point. This is the point where you never really see, because a lot of artists just don't show it because it's just, you know, a lot of boring stuff back and forth. But this is it. This is just final touches. Just making sure the edge of the face here is defined, and that's it. So this was our drawing, and I really appreciate you watching this. Hopefully you like this format of me breaking this into 2 videos. And check out these other videos that are on the screen, some of my other work. And I will be back soon with another drawing. So thanks for watching.